We have 3 agenda items, and my request of the group is if we can move item 1.3, the discussion of the regional transit support request to the top and start, since Commissioner Sheila Cascaden from Olmsted County is with us to give us a little pitch about what the request is and the work that Southeast Minnesota Together has been doing. Sheila.
Well, thank you very much. Very nice of you to put me on first. I really appreciate it. And Mike Thorstensen is joining me for this conversation. While you all know me as an Olmsted County Commissioner, I am not wearing that hat today. I am wearing the hat as the co-chair of the Southeast Minnesota Together group, which is an ad hoc volunteer group that's been working for about 8 years on how we can learn to work together as a region. And with me, Mike Thorstensen, who is the past executive director of Three Rivers Community Action, is the chairman of our transit action team. And we're here because we have what we think is some pretty exciting news that we wanted to acquaint your board with, invite you to consider supporting this effort and answer any questions you might have. So I tend to be long-winded. I hope I won't be too long-winded. Marcia, I'm sure will call it out if I am.
Well, they gave me a sandwich, Sheila, so I'm okay.
There you go.
All right, as long as she's eating, I can keep talking.
Right.
So the Southeast Minnesota Together group came about with funding from the Southeast Initiative Fund after the DMC was funded in Olmsted County. All the cities and counties around us were very concerned about what's the impact going to be on us. And so I ended up by a fluke joining a team of people who said, well, we need to have some regional meetings to ask ourselves what are ways that we can work together as a region to get ahead of the curve a little bit. And we focused on how do we focus on our workforce issues. Even 8 years ago, we knew we were going to have workforce shortages. And so our team hosted three regional meetings, one of which was in Winona. And we asked a cross-sector group of people, we had 120 people at each site, what are the issues that are affecting our workforce? And transit came out consistently as one of the #1 issues. And so over the years, we've had this transit action team that's worked to try and answer, how do we get people to work? How do we get people to services? How do we work together to improve our transit system in Southeast Minnesota? And where we are right now is that the State Department of Transportation has wanted to create something called Regional Transit Coordinating Councils. So Three Rivers Community Action applied for the grant. We worked with them. We looked at this model of how you get people to services that was federally funded. And our region said, it's not going to work for us. It's not going to meet our needs. It's not going to work for us. So we just said, thank you, no thanks. And Marcia will be happy to know that they were telling us that they would pay for it for the first year, and the second year they were wanting counties to pay to pool and have a budget of $750,000 a year to coordinate transit, to get people to services. We said, no, thank you. That's not going to work for us. Then COVID hit. And when COVID hit, Mayo eliminated their bus pass system for their employees, which then killed a private inner-city commuter bus service that was operated by a company called Rochester City Lines. And the Southeast Minnesota League of Municipalities began to talk about the consequences to all the cities in our region of not having a way to get people to work, as well as how to get people to services. So another little story is that about 3 weeks ago, the State Community Health Advisory Council had a monthly meeting. Marcia and I both serve on it. And we had a regional discussion with our public health directors of Southeast Minnesota. The question to them was, what's the biggest issue facing you as a public health entity? And to my complete surprise, the first 3 responses were transportation, how to get people to services. Well, the good news is that through the Southeast Minnesota League of Municipalities and with some funding that we received from Blue Cross Blue Shield, because they're also concerned about how you get people to services, we've come to the realization that we should examine creating a transit management organization for our region. And hopefully you all got a 1-page summary of what is involved in a transit management organization and why we think that we should really look at doing this. I will tell you, we have met with MnDOT about this. And we have worked with a consulting firm, an engineering consulting firm, who put together a scoping document of what it would take to create a regional discussion and a regional development of a rural transit management organization. And we think that this idea has merit, and it has been supported by cities and counties in our region. Fillmore County submitted a letter of inquiry to the Federal Department of Transportation for technical assistance funding to help examine this. Candidly, we don't have a really good chance of getting it for our region. The city of Chatfield is the fiscal agent for pooling funds from cities to look at creating a transit management organization. And the good news is, as of last week, the Minnesota Senate Transportation Chairman, Scott Dibble, believes in transit management organizations, is interested in seeing a rural transit management organization created. And he has put into the Senate omnibus transportation bill for this year, $350,000 to do the study, to do the development work that we would need to do it, to thoroughly examine a TMO for our region. What would happen is we'd hire we'd put together a steering committee that would have employers, educators, health providers, transit providers. They would then work with the city of Chatfield to hire a project coordinator, and then to contract with a consulting engineer to actually do the technical aspects. So the project manager would work with us as cross-jurisdictional governing body kind of thing, and the engineering firm would do the actual study. So I wanted to come and talk to you about it because you do have one of the transit, in the city of Winona has one of the transit providers. Earlier today, we met with, Mike and I met with Doug Grout of SEMCAC, who obviously operates a transit service. And we think that there's some great potential here. We want you to know about it early on. And candidly, we'd hope that you would communicate with Senator Miller and with Representative Davids that you think this would be a worthy investment for the state of Minnesota to make in our transportation future for Southeast Minnesota. So as I warned you, I'm quite a talker, and I don't know if Mike had planned to say anything, but maybe I'll give him a moment and then we can stand for questions.
Sheila, I don't think you missed a thing, so thank you.
So, Madam Chair and members of the Winona County Board, do you have questions about this? We're really not going to counties first. We're going to cities first, because most of the time we want the business community engaged. And most cities are involved in economic development. I know your county is, and we just thought it would be better to work with our municipalities and eventually come to our counties. But because of our long history with you, is it Myron Smith was on the original Southeast Minnesota Together team. So was Natalie Sedarius, who worked for your planning department. So Winona County has had a hand in this development for the last several years and wanted to talk with you about it early on.
Commissioner Ward?
A couple of questions, Sheila. Would this, you're working with the cities and such, but it wouldn't be restricted to, I guess, not crossing state lines, right? You talked a lot about medical services and everything. And of course, we're really close to La Crosse. Gunderson Lutheran is a very big provider. Same way with, Houston and Fillmore. So it wouldn't exclude going outside the state boundaries. Okay.
And in fact, the Southeast Minnesota Together group for a while was working with, I think it's Seven Rivers Economic Development Group out of La Crosse, yeah. Because really recognizing that we have Houston County, Winona County, Goodhue County, Wabasha County, we're all border counties with workforce that lives on both sides of those borders and industries that rely on that workforce. So no, we are not geographically restricted in our planning. But really to launch it, it's easier to focus within one state's boundaries.
Sure. Don't have a problem with that. The other thing, as I was driving in today, I've passed, and I've always said, I passed a very large fleet of big orange, yellow buses.
Right.
And I remember talking about 10 years ago. So is Margaret Kelleher Anderson, is she still?
She's now the City of Minneapolis Public Works Director, but she was the Commissioner of Transportation. Yeah.
Yeah. So we talked and I said, we got to somehow, we're all paying for them, those big yellow buses. Can I jump on there and somehow coordinate a schedule, and so I would hope we would still look at maybe the big yellow bus as an
Well, actually, you'll be pleased to hear that one of the things that a transit management organization does is say, what are all our assets? So they look at the school buses, they look at the volunteer drivers, they look at the current transit providers, they look at rideshare, they look at Lyft. So it's really intended to be as comprehensive as you can be with what the assets are. And
Sure.
Wabasha, the city of Wabasha recently, they've done a study on looking at what their assets are. One other thing I didn't mention is we've had some conversation with the Center for Transportation Studies at the University of Minnesota, which is a federally recognized technical assistance entity. Should we be lucky enough to get some of those federal technical assistance monies, they would be the vendor. So no, you really want to look at all your assets. You want to look at your volunteer drivers. You want to look at the vans that that the VA folks may have. Marcia, one of the things that happened with this early on is that with Preston building a veterans home, they count on workers coming up from Iowa, but they were also they were building a park and ride, and they were counting on that intercity bus because they've got to have 160 new employees to staff that, something like that, to staff the veterans home. So you want to look at all your transportation assets.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Commissioner Cascaden or Sheila, are you asking us to individually reach out to our legislators, or would you like the board to pass a resolution in support of the transit management organization?
I think a resolution from the board would be the strongest
Okay.
position. We're going to be asking the League of Municipalities to do the same. And honestly, I think Representative Davids and Senator Miller will have a big impact on whether or not this is funded. So reaching out to them, you're in a great position to do that. You have really good relationships with them. And Representative Pulaski, I understand Representative Pulaski is a strong transit supporter. And with Representative Davids, we always want to be really clear. This isn't about Rochester. So I don't want my name on it. as Mitch Lentz said to me, well, if he sees your name, we're done. Yeah, that's kind of it. It's not about Rochester. It's about our region.
So has Olmsted County or any of the other counties already passed a resolution that we could just get a copy of?
Our strategy really has been to work with the cities.
Okay.
And eventually we will probably approach all of the only county we've really approached is Fillmore, because Fillmore wrote that letter of intent through their economic development entity to secure that federal technical assistance grant. And they were very clear that, they wanted SEMCAC engaged. And, so once I sort of started down that path, I thought, well, Winona County is the next logical county to talk to. And next, I'm probably going to talk to Dodge, because Dodge has the site for the SEMCAC transit is really lodged in Casson. So Dodge, I'd probably talk to next, but we really need more cities.
What I was trying to get at is a copy of a resolution that was already done rather than having to write one from scratch.
I can send you what the League of Minnesota Cities, Southeast Minnesota League of Municipalities is putting together.
Thank you. Commissioner Ward?
Yeah, and Sheila, if you could, you said it, but I didn't write it down. What senator has dollars in a bill or a budget so that we can reference it?
It is, I will tell you the number right now.
Yeah.
It is Senate File 3087.
30. I'm sorry, 3870?
87.
87?
3087.
Okay, 3087.
It is officially Senator Mohammed and Senator Dibble, Senator Mohammed's bill, but it's going into Senator Dibble's omnibus transportation bill.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And I don't have the number for that one.
Okay. Thanks. Does anyone else have a question for Sheila? If not, thank you so much for stopping.
Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Would really appreciate your support.
You bet.
Just
Thank
a
you.
quick
Thanks, Mike.
Just a quick side, Sheila, if you talk to Representative Pulowski, he had a transportation issue this winter. His car got smucked. It was in the shop. It took much longer than what he had anticipated, and him and his wife were sharing a vehicle. So he had to hoof it a lot around the Capitol, and he wasn't a real happy camper. So he knows transit.
That does convert one's opinion, doesn't it? Yes. So, all right. Thanks again. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So is there interest by the majority to move this forward and have a resolution come before the board? It's something I support.
It wouldn't hurt. I mean, I find it always good to reach out individually to
As
our
well.
representatives and such. That's why I wanted the Senate file number.
We can make a motion here, just not, and maybe vote, but it's just not, it's not official, right?
No, we don't.
You don't do motions or
No,
votes
no,
at committee
we
of the
just
board. It's purely
consensus.
just discussion. You give the direction for us to move ahead and we
Okay.
just move ahead.
3 minutes. Don't you dare. So I know I would support a resolution, and I think it seems like a no-brainer at this point, especially there's no commitment, there's no dollars. It's just, it's a concept, it's an idea, it's a study. So absolutely.
And one of the presentations that I saw by Washington County was several years ago now. What they described is it's not like a bus service in the sense that they would own a bunch of buses and drive. It's more a question of helping someone figure out how to get from point A to point B with all of the existing resources in a way where you could do it with just a couple strokes on your phone and it would tell you then all the steps to get.
So if we get that copy from the cities, we can look at it and see how it works in county.
Okay.
We'll put it as a resolution on the next board meeting.
If we get it and can get it ready by then, yeah. I assume sooner the better, although what we have to like May 23rd, I think is when the session closes. Okay, so reverting back to the agenda, item 1.1 was to discuss administration/personnel structure. And we have some additional information from the comparable counties and some other information in our packet. Whoever would like to.
Well, I mean, the information that is in the package is a summary of what we found out. Really, it's a matter of how each organization wants to be established. The counties that we contacted, more of them have went away from having a combined position to splitting it out. But they're actually adding FTEs to make that happen. I guess I'll open it up for questions. I will go on record to say that I do recommend leaving it as the combined position, as I don't believe the board desires to have an additional FTE. I do believe that it will prepare Winona County for turnover in the future. I do think that the combined position has brought value to Winona County, not just once, but at least twice. Again, I understand the board wanting to have discussions, so I open it up to questions or.
I'll start off.
Mr.
I apparently am living in the wrong decade, or I'm 2 decades behind in terms of what I thought these salaries would be. They're sticker shock looking at both the public and private sectors, et cetera. So I thought there would be a significant saving, a possible potential, much larger savings between. And what you have listed are maximum salaries,
Correct.
not beginning or median. It's just the maximum salaries. There is a difference, but I'm living in a different decade or two in terms of what I think these people get paid.
You got to remember, Dwayne, they work full time.
Oh,
Full time.
So I guess that's my way of saying is I'm more open to the idea of going with the existing position.
I support that as well. The recommendation is to keep the current structure, and I'm in support of it.
Well, but aren't there well, there would be similar skill sets, but there's definitely different skill sets. Somebody who's versed in HR, that's a whole different, realm of things versus an assistant administrator.
Yes.
So how do you write the job description? And do we have a current job description? How do you split the duties and responsibilities? And then a lot of it, in my opinion, falls on who's the administrator. And I'll admit, in the past, I don't think the past administration has always used the assistant to its full potential. But then we've got somebody wearing two hats, and how do you take off the different hats? How would you propose what changes or how,
If it were broke out, you mean?
No, if you want to stay as one person doing both jobs.
Mhm. So we do have a classification already in place. The key is to ensure that the emphasis is on HR.
Mhm.
And again, I don't mean to bring up me, but as time went on, more responsibility was given to me. And it may have been just the nature of my years of experience with the organization and being able to just jump in as we had turnover in the administrative role. Could be just coincidence that happened. But the key is to go through and really separate the functions that our administration needs to focus on and do. And let the HR be more of HR focus. The key is to have enough overlap so that the assistant can step in when you need it. So they can step in for a meeting, they can complete an agenda if it need be, that they can follow up on some key things if needed, but not to take a majority of their time. So it's a balancing act. There's going to be ebb and flow. I don't think there's a perfect science.
Mhm.
Following up on that, the word emphasis, and it relates to what Marcia just said. Like when you say emphasis, like two questions, if you could ballpark, like it's hard in terms of not where was it in the beginning in terms of if you could break it down, FTE 50-50, 60-40, 70-30, then where should it be in terms of like what percentage of the overall should be HR
From my perspective,
from your perspective?
I would say 75 to 80% could be HR. And the other part should be filling in as needed. It should not take a majority of their time. Absolutely not.
Go ahead.
The two concerns about this is it worked for you and it worked for you. You were great and it was great for Winona County to have you. Concern that I have, I know there's no way that we can require this, is my fear is that we're going to, I spoke on the phone about this. I fear that I don't know if Marcia or Chris brought it up at the last meeting, is that we're going to train someone and they're going to probably get headhunted. They're going to get poached. They're going to get picked up by somebody else. Is that, I'm not saying that that's a reason not to do it, but it works if a person is committed to the area, the greater area. So the concern I have is we're going to devote time and additional funding to a person and get them ready, and they're going to get headhunted because of. Another concern I have, I think it's somewhat to what Marcia said as well, is I don't want the next commission, the administrator to always have to come out of HR. Nothing against you, but I'm not a big fan of HR in general, in terms of other organizations as well, just being honest. They're more managers versus leaders, but it doesn't mean that great people can't come out of there. I don't want to like narrow the field.
Yep.
But then again, I don't know if I want to create, like Chris, you said in a perfect world, we'd have two separate positions. We'd have an assistant and then we'd have HR that could focus on HR, but that's maybe too big of a step for the county. So I don't know, that's a concern I have as well, is that if we're looking for, in terms of succession planning, which I think is ideal and maybe not, and hopefully possible, I don't want to like limit the person to like that set of skills. And I don't know how to address that. Is there a way to address that?
Well, if I could follow on with that. First of all, I don't think we should call it Assistant County Administrator / Personnel Director. I think you should say Personnel Director with it's just the way you put it out there, with administrative responsibilities or something, so that you're emphasizing the HR perspective of the position and not the administrative part of the position. And then Dwayne, don't worry, anybody under 30 is not going to stay in Winona County government for very long. Again, you're old school and you're tenured. We don't have that here. And again, the workforce is so much more fluid.
Oh, very,
They're-
very true.
They're all going to be headhunted regardless of who you hire.
But that then contradicts all the advantage of having this person set up, trained, ready to go to step in like you.
Yeah, don't count on them being there when you got them.
But the benefit that I see is if the position was filled right now and we have another department head that's empty, right, which is something that happens. And it happened with HHS and it was like that for a long time. Then you have the administrator stepped in and took over as that department head and you have someone then to back up some of those. And that's an important thing. I felt like that was, and that can happen. And I mean, in today's work environment will happen. So.
So what we could do to kind of address some of the concerns is rewrite the classification and take out some of the administrative functions, if you wish,
Yeah.
and have it more emphasis of HR. It gives you some balance. I mean, if that's what you're thinking more in alignment of.
Well, it so much depends on the individual. Some
Oh,
people
yeah.
will flow into that easily. Some people won't. So again, it depends on your applicant pool. If you have a candidate that can do both, or you end up with, especially initially.
The kind of individuals that I would envision would apply for a combined position as someone who has an interest in going to the next level.
Yeah.
That really has that interest, but maybe they currently are in an HR role that has a little bit of that, but not, to that next level.
Mhm.
Are we a training ground? Yeah, I would say, Dwayne, we're probably going to be a training ground. But that's a chance every employer takes in today's world.
I think, to your point, Marcia, that it might be that if an individual has the HR skill set but wants to do more, that might be an additional item to attract them.
It's something that I think Kay was saying, but I'm not sure if I understood it correctly, but there's 2 or 3 good points. And she was talking about, help me with summarize what she was saying. She was suggesting it could be somebody else within the county as well. In terms of what Kay Qualley said at our last discussion,
To have another department head act as the assistant.
but not the personnel director.
Right.
That's what I heard.
That's what
Is
I
that what you
heard.
guys heard too?
Right. The concerns with that is, most of the department heads are in association, so they're in a union.
Union, yeah.
They would, just not possible or just tricky.
Well, I wouldn't be sharing everything with them.
Yeah.
I mean,
There's
they're in an
certain things.
association for a reason.
Uh-huh.
It would make it challenging, very challenging.
Mhm.
What do you guys all think about?
I think I've always supported leaving it as is. I thought it was a good idea when we did it. It has paid dividends, gives us backup, and it's pulled us through some tough times. So
Rewrite the description and then we'll see what it looks like, I guess.
Let's not drag this out further.
Well, you have to rewrite it to post it.
Well, I
Correct.
understand that, but then I have to wait another month before we're gonna have a
Well,
decision to move
you can
forward.
send it out to us and we can scrutinize it individually, correct?
Do we have the current one available?
Mhm, yes, we do.
Maybe that'd be a good place to start.
Well,
Maybe
all right.
we'll just leave it as is. But you, what I'm saying.
What I'm trying to say is, let's not drag this out, please. It's already been a month.
Oh,
If
time
we
flies
really
when you're
want-
having fun.
Oh, hug, Marcia. I'm just saying,
What would you like to
give
see?
give me a time frame here, please.
I think one thing we have heard was concern that we don't have somebody in that role right now.
Yep.
So I would say to expedite it.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
But who's going to do the legwork? Because you have to take applicants, you have you got staff that'll do that and
Our
point
partner.
them or whatever, you have to sort through them out and
Yep.
everything. and
Correct.
stuff. Okay,
So is the current job description close enough?
Yes, it's ready to go.
but this brings me to one of the other issues is that, okay, if you're talking about HR, and I think we've all gotten some feedback from people, citizens and employees about the HR position and everything. Who would make the final hiring decision on this position? Because this position would be, again, if it goes into the assistant administrator, that's the face and voice of Winona County. And I have strong feelings that I think the county board should be involved with that hiring because they represent us. And if it's somebody that's a total, on a total different ballpark. So would your hiring process include the county board?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Okay.
the way I read our, our policies, the administrator brings the request to us, like, here's my recommendation.
Well, but that's too late.
That is accurate. However, we do offer, when we do the interviews for any of the commissioners who want to participate, they can participate in the interviews. And it does come back to the board. You folks actually do the approval or denial of the position, the hiring.
I would like to see two. If it was personnel director, that'd be one thing. If it's a assistant county administrator, I think then the board or maybe two people should be on, two of us
Whoever
Okay.
wants to be on it can be on it.
If you and
Or
Commissioner
more.
Ward want to do it, that's cool.
Or more,
Yep.
or more.
Yeah, I mean,
Yep.
Or more.
however many of you
Yep.
want to, we just have it so that it,
But I think we could move it. When you and I spoke on the phone, I think we could move it faster than you said. How many weeks? 18 weeks or
4.5 months.
I don't think it need to take that long.
Well, there are pieces,
decades
there are
behind.
pieces we can do differently.
What'd you say? What'd you say?
I said they're 2 decades behind. It takes a while.
We don't need to.
There are pieces we cannot change, such as the background.
Right,
We don't have control over that.
right.
Um,
But we don't need to have citizens. So
right, we can streamline it. Yes.
All right.
So we're going to, does it matter either in terms of the job classification and description or in the marketing of it, if it's a personnel director / assistant county administrator, because you said that it would be like 75-80% HR. Does that matter, do you think, to anybody?
Well, I think some people it will. I can't speak for everyone, but
Right.
Generally a title is in some ways prestige, it means something to some people and others it won't. The classification as it's written right now has the assistant first. Can we switch it? We can switch it.
Well, just as long as it's clear that the word emphasis is very vague. So maybe if we could,
Make it more clear.
like you said, 75-80%, if possible, that I think it helps
Okay.
the applicants and it helps the boards in the future to realize it, and the administrators are dumping too much on that person, like was dumped on you forever.
And in your process, do we post it internally first and then externally or simultaneously?
Simultaneously. We
Okay.
want to expedite the process.
Well, yeah, I'm okay then moving forward. And to me, as soon as possible, as fast as you can do it.
Well, what are you going to post it? What's the range? It's based on responses. And again, I'll bring up my point. These counties are not comparable. They're much larger counties with much larger budgets. And I'm not sure about number of employees, but
So I would have to get
But
back
what's
to
the
you on
range?
the range.
okay.
I didn't bring that document with me,
All right.
but I can email it.
All right.
So the next step is you bring it before the board as officially.
No, actually, we just move ahead.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. Item 1.2,
I'm
discuss.
sorry, so
oh, yeah,
Chris, so
please.
it'll be simultaneously for the project, it's all of the county existing staff and go out. I'm sorry, thank you.
Yes.
That's different than school district. Thank you.
Yep.
Anything
Thank you.
else?
Nope.
Sure. Okay. Item 1.2, discuss the Mighty Mississippi cleanup. Commissioner Ward.
Okay, yes, we received, and I think everybody got copied. I initially got it from Linda Flanders, County Commissioner up in Goodhue. I did talk to Linda this morning. I said, we're maybe a little concerned of where you go with the concern of flooding
Yeah,
and
exactly.
activities. And she said, yeah, when they planned this, 6 months ago, they didn't think. And she said they do have a flood date, like moving it back into May 20th. If that, if the weather is cooperating and the lack of flooding. And then even if it's, bad, then she said they would probably move it to the fall.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if,
That's what the Mississippi River Revival used to
Do
do.
it
So,
the
yeah, my
fall?
husband's organized like dozens of cleanups over the years. and
mhm.
They don't do it until July.
Okay.
For the very reason that you just said, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know why they picked so early because I think you'd have to be very careful where we would be asking people to do this work
No,
If
it'll
the-
be in the water.
if the water's high. And I don't know, I did not reach out to the city of Winona. Did the city of Winona get challenged? Because the one lady in this Miss, I think it's Topol, no, wait, that's somebody else. There was a lady in one of the articles that's from the city of, I want to say City Council of Red Wing. And so I thought she was maybe challenging the cities. But I don't know, what do people want to do? Earth Day is April
22nd.
22nd. Like, would we want to do something, maybe even just levy park? But I guess that's the question I wanted to know if the city was joining in or doing anything.
No idea.
Okay,
I think it's a great idea. But if they're okay with us waiting till the summer, let's do it in the summer instead. The one disadvantage is I could probably get some students involved if it was in the school year, but maybe I could still get some students involved in July. But
Mhm.
I mean, I'm glad I didn't realize that Paul worked with Mississippi River Revival. I was trying to reach Saul Simon. I haven't heard back from him yet.
Yeah, and Paul told me that the MRR, they haven't done a cleanup now for like 3 years, because like all of us, they're old now.
And
Uh-huh.
COVID, yep.
so we could partner with them.
Or
but-
anybody, yep.
But Paul would be happy to help probably, but his first thing was, well, but not until July.
Oh,
And he's,
So-
but every day I get an update from him on the snowpack and whether it's going to flood or not, so.
So maybe, yes, we'll do it. It may not be in this time frame, but we'll
Yeah.
definitely do it and
Yeah.
aim for July sometime.
But what's your vision for it there?
just getting some people out and getting some, like she said, just getting some people out and getting some garbage bags and getting the crap, pulled out of, the more touristy areas. I said, we could even walk around Lake Winona. There's a lot of crud, on Lake Winona on the shoreline.
I've done that before. yeah.
And stuff. If we wanted to do it earlier, that would be
Like
a
in-
safer amphitheater. than-
Because there are
That's a road.
Earth Day
That's
events
supposed to be
happening
in
at
water.
the lake.
Okay,
And I know that the city and Healthy Lake Winona are planning to have like tables and stuff. So,
well, maybe we could, are
If you
you
wanted
in
to do the-
contact with those people?
yeah, if you wanted to
Okay.
do the lake and then maybe on Earth Day, I don't know.
Does
We
the
had
lake at all receive any water from the Mississippi
I
River?
guess a little
It's, no, I was gonna say, it's not a tributary or a backwater or anything like. Well, we could go get a gallon jug of Mississippi and dump it in there and see it's a,
But if we could just commit to a general smaller version of what Mississippi Revival used to do, just if it's 10 or 15, 20 people,
Yeah.
Yeah.
they went, I mean,
It could be like out on Latch Park. or-
yep,
Yeah,
exactly.
by
I
the-
mean,
by the houseboat.
they had houseboats, they had, they had all kinds of stuff. So yeah, aim for July.
Going
Yeah.
down the road.
yeah.
Should we talk about this again?
So just where,
How
maybe
much
we could
it-
tell
yeah,
her
will
that, yes, we're
change.
in,
Yeah,
just a different date. Marcia, you
Pardon
okay? Are you okay if we tell, is it Linda? that, yeah,
Linda.
yes,
Something, but we're not until July.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
yes.
if you may allow me to speak as your
Absolutely.
counsel.
Yeah.
Every time I see something like this, it's great idea, but there's liability issues.
Yeah, there we go. That's
So
exactly.
we
it.
might want to check with MCIT. I mean, when we sponsor things, there has to be a waiver, a consent form, things like that. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
not to
That's
put a
that-
damper. on-
no, but
Debbie,
that's
Debbie
the-
Downer
Debbie
today.
Downer, yeah, sorry.
That is the issue.
Yeah.
And-
Well, you
It
paid
is.
big bucks.
And whenever I've volunteered to do stuff at the lake, the city makes me sign a waiver.
Waiver,
Yeah.
yeah. And I don't know if they've thought of
Outdoor
that at
collaborative.
all.
I mean, it's a
don't
great
know.
idea, but.
Yeah.
and
Well, that
especially
was my
since
concern
it's
of having
so
people
soon,
along
too,
the
you know?
banks of the mighty Mississippi. It's,
Yeah, I mean,
I'll have
somebody
Sheila
step
look
on
into it.
something and get tetanus,
Okay,
right? Yeah.
okay, why don't you,
Yeah.
Maureen will have Sheila look into it.
The
Do
insurance.
NCIT insurance risk
Mhm.
and everything.
Right.
I'll let Linda know we're probably going to do something, but it might, because of weather and,
Mhm.
activities, we might wait.
Yeah.
But we'll take pictures and send them to her when we do it.
And maybe Paul can
And-
talk with some folks to see.
Yeah,
if
and,
they-
and you can, if
Yeah.
Chris can check with Paul and any of the other people, what, you said they're planning some Earth Day
Yeah.
events, that usually there is something
Yeah,
going on.
I'm trying to think,
I haven't heard of anything, but
who is organizing it? I haven't been paying that much
I think it's
attention.
Parks and Rec through the city. and one of
Probably, they
them-
used to, yeah.
And one of the groups. There's some things at the East End Rec, I think. but-
okay.
I'll
All right.
ask around.
Okay, we'll table it until we get a little bit more information. from-
Well, you can
Other
also let her know that, yes, we'll do it.
Yeah, I'll call Linda and say we're gonna do something, but
I have
we
boots.
are on
And a dog.
I have boots. I have a dog. I have a
Yeah.
boat.
boats.
And a boat. Okay.
All right,
All right. So that's it for the committee of the board.
Yep.
We're going to adjourn.
Right.
We have 4 minutes until the community health board. That wasn't
Yes.
really canceled, was it?
Uh,
6:45, isn't it?
6:45? Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah.
yeah.